So this is my thoughts on the Satanic Bible, written by Anton LaVey. So he wrote the Satanic Bible, and I believe it was published in 1969. I could be mistaken about that, but it's sometime in the later half of the 60s this book was written. And so I picked it up and I read it. The one thing about the book that kind of surprised me is it is atheist. It is an atheist sort of philosophy. However, he does include some dialogue about magic. Not like, street magic or illusionist type magic, but actual like magic rituals and stuff like that. So that kind of surprised me, because a lot of it does seem rooted in some type of loosely based science, like a psychological take on human nature, but then there's sort of this talk about magic, and so that kind of was a little hard for me to get over at first, but the more he describes it, the more I kind of started to think of it in a slightly different manner. It's kind of like what he's talking about with magic. To me, the way I read it is he's talking about people using their appearance or various other techniques to manipulate people or situations to suit their will. And so I definitely think that kind of magic that he's talking about does happen all the time. I think every single person does that. I think some people are just really, really adept at it. So the other thing about it is, I do, personally, I will tell you guys, I believe that there are forces and phenomena in nature that have yet to be adequately described by science, such as telepathy or astral projection during lucid dreaming, that kind of thing. So anyways, I think there are a lot of things that we don't quite understand about the abilities of the human mind. So I'm not ruling out things, really. I'm just saying that some stuff is yet to be described, and maybe it will never be described because maybe it's totally bogus. But I think there are things that, for instance, we used to look at magnetism as an occult power because nobody understood what magnetism was before we characterized that force of nature. So that's kind of where I kind of come from with that. Anyways, so the positive aspects of this book, as I see them, I think that he cuts through a lot of BS that you're kind of indoctrinated with as a person growing up in the West through churches and stuff. I think he cuts through a lot of the BS, and even like the BS of like New Age stuff and whatever. I think he really, I would recommend reading the book on that basis alone, because it's sort of refreshing from that standpoint. I won't go into tons of detail about it because I don't want to really spoil the book for anybody who wants to read it. But so yeah, I think it was totally worth reading, and I'm glad that I read it. Now, I would say this: it's not a philosophy that I would necessarily adopt into my life. I mean, parts of it are, but I think it's limited in other ways. There's definitely an emphasis on materialism, which is not, I don't see that as a bad thing, but it seems like it could become an imbalanced thing, if that makes sense. I also think that the book was clearly written from a first world male perspective, if you will. So there's he talks about like the satanic black mass and what that should entail, and using naked women as an altar. And now, mind you, I'm not saying that a woman who is doing this of her own volition is somehow being taken advantage of. I don't look at sexuality as bad, but it's very clear that he kind of reduces a woman's role in this to a sexual one, and that's it, which is sort of unfortunate. I haven't read his other books. He's got one called The Satanic Witch, and which is supposed to be directed a little bit more at females, but I've actually heard other people kind of have the same complaint about this being sort of a male perspective only kind of take on stuff, and it is a philosophy that celebrates the male and male energy and masculinity. So, and there's nothing, again, wrong with that. It's just that I seek balance in stuff, and so I see that as imbalance. I forgot I wanted to turn here. Anyways, so yeah, I think there will definitely be other philosophies out there that sort of resonate with me a little bit more than this one, but I think this one was totally, it made a lot of sense. There's so many good quotables in it, really, about seeking out lies and destroying lies, and the lies that are persistent and held to be common truths, or the most dangerous ones that we need to question. So I like that sort of rebellious question aspect, characterization of Satan. Again, and if you guys don't know, LaVeyan Satanism does not look at Satan as an actual being. It's more of like a character that you think about and sort of try to embody some of those aspects into the way you do things, I guess. So, yeah, the next book I will actually be doing is going to be a book on the Luciferian philosophy, and I think that that's probably going to be one based on what I've read about it. It's going to probably jive with my worldview a little bit better than the Satanic Bible. I am really glad I read the Satanic Bible, but I would not do something like, I would not join the Church of Satan. I think that the Church of Satan and the people that are sort of strictly adhering to Anton LaVey's take on things, I think they aren't independent thinkers necessarily. And I mean, these people pay like $200 to join the Church of Satan, and it seems like a huge ripoff. And it's also like a bunch of old white men, essentially, and in their little private club. And it just seems kind of lame to me. Like, so I would not join the Church of Satan in any way, shape, or form. But I think they tend to persist. And here's the thing, like, I think a lot of what he said, for the time it was written, 1969, was way ahead of its time. I mean, he actually mentions asexuals and talks about accepting alternative sexualities, and I think that was an idea totally visionary, ahead of its time. But there are things in there that are now dated that need to be given up and replaced with better ideas, and it seems like the Church of Satan's a little stuck in the time, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I will be reading the Luciferian book next, which I hope will be really good. I would say that I actually follow the Satanic Temple, which is a group of activists, really, that use the character of Satan to sort of do some activist work, and I actually follow them because I actually totally kind of agree with their perspective on things. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna go pick up some cat food for my very satanic cats here. Guess I can just go. And I'm sorry about the delay in the reply. I actually dropped my bike not that long ago. I ran into a pine cone and dropped it in my driveway, and I was kind of like, then I had to go out of town, and then I just kind of was bummed about riding, because every time I drop my bike, my confidence level goes way down. So anyways, I'll try to get more timely with my posts.